Basically, yeah, I'm not saying everyone in this series is the worst rapper in the game, I'm asking if they are. It's almost a first impression series. I might like this rapper, I might not. Don't get in your feelings about a title. Enjoy the video. Whoa, look who it is again. It's your favorite guy with the beanie man back again, flexing in his Versace gown. Today we're going to be talking about Michael White IV, which is possibly one of the most normal names I've ever heard in my life, otherwise known as Trippie Redd. And I'm actually pretty sure he's the second rapper that's younger than me that we've looked at in this series, so I guess I'm an old head if I don't like his music because he's 7 months younger than me. All these old people critiquing rap nowadays, it has to stop. Now, before we start, I want to give a massive shout out to this guy called AR0045949 on Spotify, who actually made a worst rappers in the game playlist, which contains over 200 songs from all the artists that I've done so far in this series. And I think all the songs he's chose is actually all the songs that I play clips from in these videos, and he's put the full songs on this playlist, so massive respect to you, I love you, and appreciate you. So in preparation for this video, I listened to Beast Mode as voted for by my Twitter audience. Go follow me at CDTVProductions. A love letter to you, and a love letter to you too. So, based off this, in my opinion, is Trippie Redd one of the worst rappers in the game? Let's find out. And as always, for part 1, we're going to be looking at his voice and his delivery. So, in terms of Trippie's voice, I'm struggling to understand what makes him stand out as unique. Now, let me explain what I mean by that. There is one person I would compare him to, and I would say there are a lot of similarities between his and Lil Uzi Vert's voice and delivery. And I'm sure it's a comparison he gets a lot, but he's kind of earned it. I mean, I'm not the only one who thinks this as well. When I said on my Twitter account, again, CDTVProductions, go follow me there, that I was going to be doing a Worst Rappers in the Game episode on Trippie Redd, one of my followers responded with, "You already did." And he's placed at number 9. And because I did hear Lil Uzi first, it's hard for me to see Trippie as much more than a Uzi clone, except for the fact that I find Trippie's voice to be worse. It's quite clear to see that he can't really sing. A lot of people say he can, but if you watch his Genius videos where he breaks down his lyrics, he sings part of his songs here, and it's not awful, but it's really not good. He can just barely hold a note.
Girl, you got me going out bad. Girl, you got me real sad.
And at least for Uzi, I found Uzi to at least have some sort of decent melody when he sang. For Trippie, not so much, unfortunately. Trippie's voice is just so scratchy the majority of the time he sings, and it honestly sounds kind of like he's trying to make it sound bad. Like, when I first heard the track Heartbreak 14, I honestly felt like if someone heard me listening to that, I'd have to explain to them why I'm listening to it. The hook on there just sounded so dreadful.
Heartbreak, y'all. Heartbreak, y'all.
The thing is, it's not exactly his voice that's the same as Uzi, don't get me wrong with that. Like, when Trippie isn't using autotune, he sounds way different, so it sounds like he's just forcing his delivery to sound similar to Uzi. Sorry for the lengthy comparison, but that's mostly what I got from his voice. It stood out quite blatantly to me. However, I will admit, on his most recent mixtape, A Love Letter to You Too, his voice does seem to be improving, and it made his tracks much more likable on there. Of course, songs like Back, Back, Back and Feel Good show that his scratchy kind of singing, his kind of shrieking, is gonna continue in his music, which I dislike, but then there's tracks like Hellboy, where he raps in what is closer to his normal voice, and it sounds really damn good.
I
let the money dance. The diamond blings all by itself without any help. So that means it shine on its own.
He needs to do that more often. When he actually raps, his voice does sound good. He has a great voice for rapping, it's just not utilized enough by him. I also kind of like his auto-tune singing when he tones it down a bit and it's not so screechy. Like on the songs Dead Man's Wonderland or even It Takes Time.
But this shit takes time, little baby. This shit takes time, little baby, yeah. You know time is of the essence. Girl, you gotta be patient. You gotta be patient. Time is...
I think he feels that his auto-tuned crooning adds excitement to his music, but really for me it just irritates me. Whereas when he tones it down a little bit and relaxes, it's much more enjoyable. Now, like I said, he is improving because for all of the tracks on Beast Mode, I hated his voice. For about 90% of the tracks on A Love Letter to You, I hated his voice. But I hated his voice on only about half the tracks on A Love Letter to You too. And while that's still not amazing, at least he's going somewhere and it's kind of improving. But it doesn't take away from the fact that on most songs, I found his delivery unbearably infuriating. And also, there is still the fact that I've made all throughout this segment that he sounds very similar to Uzi, and it's very close to the territory of biting his style. So I'm gonna have to give Trippie a similar score to what I gave Uzi here, and I'm gonna give Trippie a 2 out of 10 for his voice. He shows flashes of brilliance when he uses deliveries closer to his real voice, but just based on what I've heard from him, I really didn't like most of it. And for our second segment, we're gonna be looking at Trippie Redd's flow. Now his flow is kinda hard to pin down because most of the time he uses flows that border between rapping and singing. It's kind of hard to pick it apart. But I will say that I really did like the kind of singing rapping flow he did on the second verse of Solar Flare. I enjoyed the way he did it there.
I am an animal, eat you alive like a cannibal, crush it like animals, yeah. Ballin' that pain, nigga like Michelangelo. The flow that you spit not changeable, yeah. And I made it.
It sounds fairly decent. He definitely does utilize the quote-unquote singing flow a lot more, to very mixed results. But before I talk about the bad, I want to start off with talking about the good here. And guess where his flow really excels for me? That's right, on the tracks where he actually raps. You have no idea the amount of shock I felt when I heard his track, Can You Rap Like Me? My reaction at first was, I looked at the title of the song and laughed, thinking, who would want to? But then I listened to it and it surprised me so much. I mean, how do you go from this?
Man, all these fuck niggas, man, they hate it. Now I made it out when I come back, better show appreciation.
To this.
I gotta get my fresh paper, boy, optimistic, inflicted the criminals in my vision, the place I visit while lifted. Moolah, I get it, the life I live, my decision, they told me to.
In the space of a single track, it proves that Trippie can actually rap, and I didn't expect that at all. But then again, is that a good thing? It makes it feel like he does this Uzi auto-tune singing style because it's popular, when he can actually spit when he wants to. Seriously, that track is dope. Along with the beat, it kinda gave me serious Logic / Joey Badass vibes. More of that, please. I also liked his flow on Hellboy, and one of his singing flows I actually liked was the one on In Too Deep. I think it fits the song perfectly, and it was just the right pace for it. But apart from that, there weren't many other songs where his flow stood out as special. Most of the time, I was so distracted by his voice just scratching at my ears that I couldn't really focus on much else. Again, I hate to draw this comparison, but his flow again reminds me of Uzi on a lot of tracks that, like, they sound very similar to how Lil Uzi did on the Lil Uzi Vert versus the World mixtape. And in case you haven't seen my videos on Lil Uzi, I'll just explain right now, I don't like him. I don't like Lil Uzi that much at all. So, like, obviously, I don't mean him as a person, I mean his rapping. So I'm not just making these comparisons because I'm an Uzi fanboy or something, it's just genuinely what I've taken from Trippie's music. But I'll try to stop with the comparisons now. I think I've made my point with the comparison. Overall, I think it's very clear that Trippie can flow when he actually wants to. And when he raps, he does so nicely. but most of the time it's just really dull singing flows and it really didn't interest me that much. I'm gonna be generous here and give him a 4.5 out of 10. The tracks where he did flow well really surprised me, and his score would be even lower if he didn't show that potential. I just hope he does more tracks where he spits in the future. And for our third segment in this episode, we're gonna be talking about Trippie's lyrical ability. Now, lyrically, I can't praise Trippie that much. Even on the more lyrical tracks like Can You Rap Like Me, lyrically it's not mind-blowing by any stretch. It's just better. Yes, his rhyming is pretty damn solid on that track, but in terms of anything valuable in the lyrics, there's not much there. Trippie also has the mark of every great rapper by unendingly using shit metaphors. Now, they never really sound good, and they always kind of fall into the corny territory that you really don't want to go in, so I don't understand why many rappers use them, and Trippie uses quite a few. Here are some examples.
Yeah, I'm the shit like a 40. Whoa, Rich, oh my god, what's that smell? Wait, forgot I'm the shit. Can't shit on me, you constipated.
I don't know why he uses them often, but I'd love if he stopped doing so. Another thing he does that I've heard a lot of rappers do is reference Scottie Pippen. Seriously, I've heard rappers say his name so much now and I'm tired of it. And it's usually just to use the outdated and cliche balling like insert basketball player's name here line. There's a bigger issue I have though. He sometimes tells interesting stories in his songs for a little bit, but the thing is, after listening to 3 whole mixtapes from him, I feel like I know next to nothing about him, other than he raps about love sometimes, and he really likes the number 14 because he grew up on 14th Street. That's one of the biggest issues I have. I want to know more about him and I just don't. I just didn't hear about him enough, and he didn't inject enough of himself into his music. His lyrics didn't really tell me much. And he was one of the guys I came into this thinking maybe his lyrics would actually be interesting because he has a lot of songs which from the titles seem to be based around the theme of love. But really there's not much within those songs that is that interesting. He does maybe have a few lines here and there that did make me laugh or smile a bit. Like on one song he said, "These bitches chasing nuts, this ain't Ice Age," which I thought was it was kind of funny, made me smile. But there's not too much here that I would say was worthy of merit. So I'm gonna give Trippie a 2 out of 10 for his lyrics. There's too many awkward lines and too many that just don't mean anything. And for part 4, we're gonna be looking at the beats that Trippie has selected for his music. Now the beats, this is another segment that I feel kind of mixed on, but again, I would say it's something that Trippie has been improving as time has went on. Like, I definitely think the strongest tape production-wise was again A Love Letter to You Too. Towards the start of his career, I honestly got pretty bored by most of the beats he chose, and I felt like there really wasn't that much variation between them. I mean, all the tracks on his first project, Beast Mode, were produced by the same guy, Pierre Bourne. This really doesn't help in making them sound unique. I'm not saying he's an awful producer, but his beats do sound really similar on Beast Mode. They all have that really bubbly, synth-driven sound, and it's okay, but it's nothing too interesting. He also has plenty of beats that don't stray too far from being typical trap, especially on tracks like No Smoke, No Smoke and Dangerous. They just hit me as completely unremarkable beats. There's just a lot of tracks where I felt super underwhelmed by the instrumentals. However, as with every segment on here, his production does seem to be getting better over time. One of my favourite beats that he's used is the one for Limitless. It has a really interesting kind of buzzing bass, and I really feel like the instrumental fit the sound that the track was meaning to go for.
Hey, all my life I've been limitless, nigga, never had a limit. Yeah, rolling around in the roar, you still in the Civic. Yeah, rolling around.
And whilst Back of My Mind was incredibly syrupy and poppy, I still enjoyed it because I'm just a person who likes upbeat beats. Who doesn't like to feel good? And then to pick another highlight, Today has some pretty nice production with some bell sounds, and it sounds pretty different to a lot of the stuff he usually goes for. Overall, I'm gonna give Trippie a 5.5 out of 10 for his beat selection. I feel like he is getting a bit better at selecting beats currently, but there's really one archetypal sound he goes for, and it would just be nice to hear him change up a bit more. Like I said, there were a few highlight beats, but there were quite a lot that were just underwhelming underwhelming. He doesn't have bad production, he just has meh production. And now for part 5, I'm gonna be telling you guys my overall enjoyment of Trippie Redd's music. As you know, for this video, I listened to Beast Mode, A Love Letter to You, and A Love Letter to You Too. And how I'd rank my enjoyment of each of those projects is pretty easy. Pretty much in the order they came out is how I'd rank them from least favourite to favourite. His most recent one is my favourite, his oldest one is my least favourite. Beast Mode was almost insufferable for me. The fact I had to listen to the project multiple times for this video genuinely pained me. Then for A Love Letter to You, I thought there was a few tracks that stood out, but everything else was just too obnoxious or sounded too much like Uzi for me to care. As for A Love Letter to You Too, as I said, he's showing signs of becoming a better artist, but there's still too many bad tracks on here. There's more that I like than any of his other projects, but there's still too many that I just don't care for. Throughout all this, I just felt really confused because I didn't understand all the hype around Trippie. His voice can be just horribly irritating sometimes, and as I've said, he sounds like another rapper quite often, which is not something you want to do. I'm sorry, but I really didn't enjoy this experience. So overall, as an enjoyment rating, I'm gonna give Trippie Redd another 2 out of 10 here. At least his name sounds interesting. He could have just called himself Lil 14, but at least he didn't do that. At least he chose a good sounding name. I'll give him props for that. And now that we've been through all those segments, it's time for my final verdict and overall ranking of Trippie against all the other rappers we've done so far in this series. So as an overall score here, Trippie scores 16 out of 50. This places him quite close to the bottom of our list, with him ranking at number 13 out of the 17 rappers we've looked at so far, placing him above Kodak Black, but just below Famous Dex by a very small margin. I will listen to Trippie's next project because I do feel like he's on the path to becoming a better artist, but right now, he's just not there. Well guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you guys all enjoyed this one. Subscribe if you did and you haven't watched my channel before, leave a like if you enjoyed, and share the video to help it get out there. Or if you have any Trippie Redd fans that you want to see this video so they can dislike bomb it and leave comments calling me old and oh, I just can't take it. I can't take the hit. It's too much, guys. If you want, you can follow me on Instagram and Snapchat under the name CDTVProductions. You can check out my music under the name I Am Jace. There's also, you can find me on Spotify, Apple Music, pretty much any streaming platform, most of them. And with that being said, hopefully I'll be doing Scarlord next in this series. I've been meaning to do him for a while, but Trippie Redd was definitely more requested than Scarlord, and I want to get the most requested rappers out there first. So thank you so much for watching, guys. I'll see you all in the next one. I know these videos take time, but don't lie, you always enjoy them. You always enjoy them when they come out. And I'll hopefully see you guys all in the next one. I put my finger on my head way too early there, but now it's happening. Now I just got my hand here. And now we're going to do the outro. This is CDTVProductions, signing out.